Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to October's Spooky TBR. I have quite a huge selection of horror books, okay? It's huge for me anyways because I don't read a lot of horror books, but I've collected a few over the years and I thought about making a video kind of showing you all of the books on my physical TBR that are horror. Don't worry, I'll still be doing that. I'm currently working on a spooky reading vlog right now, and in that vlog I am going to be talking about my actual physical horror TBR, and I will kind of show you what I have on my shelves. In the video I'm not going to be pulling out every single book and reading every synopsis, but I will show you briefly what I have on my shelves and what the books are about. So I'm gonna keep it for that video, but in this video I just want to talk about the 12 books. I think it's 12. Yep, I narrowed it down to 12 books that are on my radar for October that I want to try to read. Will I get to all 12? No, obviously not. Because I don't read that fast, okay? I don't read that fast, but these are the books that I would like to get to or I'm interested in reading. So let's talk about them. The first book I want to talk about, I don't have a physical copy of it, but I have started listening to the audio version of it, and that is The September House by Carissa Orlando. This one is about a woman named Margaret who happens to come across this beautiful Victorian house. She gets it at a good deal and she decides it's going to be her dream house. However, every year in September, the house is heavily haunted. It has bleeding walls, it has creepy ghostly children, it has paranormal elements. It's a really good book. That's the first book I'm reading this month. So far so good. I'm enjoying it and I will just share my thoughts with you when I finish it. The next book on my list is going to be Old Country by Matt and Harrison Corey, and this one is about a couple who decides to move to the countryside, leave the city behind. They move to the countryside and they move into this old rundown kind of barn style house with a lot of land. They come to find out that the land and the property itself could be haunted. It could be, you know, demonic entities lurking around in it. So I'm super excited. It is dual POV too, so that gets me really excited. I love to be in the heads of multiple characters at a time, and with horror it's a plus. So you do get the perspective of the husband and wife in here, and that intrigues me a lot. The next book on my list would have to be Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This has been on my radar for a year now. I haven't gotten to it, but I've heard nothing but great things. And this one is about a girl who moves back into her childhood home, I believe, because her parents passed away. That house is haunted. I think also she doesn't remember that the reason why they fled that home one night was because of the things and the events that occurred in that house during that time. Her father happens to be a nonfiction author and he writes about his experiences living in this house. So that is so interesting to me. I can't wait to get to it. The next one is a Gothic horror, and that one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Again, this is one of those things where I've really wanted to get to this book when I heard about it when it was released, and I just didn't get the time to because we just don't have enough time to read all these books, right? Our TBRs just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger every year. This one's no different. I think this one's about a woman who, I think her cousin calls her, who just got recently married, and her cousin calls her for her help because she's experiencing some weird things happening in the house. I think this is also a haunted house horror. I can't wait to read it. I'm excited. The next book on my list is going to be Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison, and this one I believe is like a cultish horror book. This book follows Vespar, and she fled her family when she was 18, I believe, because they were kind of in this very religious, cultish community, and she wanted nothing to do with it. So she fled, hasn't looked back, but then she gets an invitation to her cousin's wedding. Therefore, she has to go back to her family's old farm where it's going to be hosted. Things go from there. I've heard great things about this book. I think it's cultish, so I'm excited. I'm really excited to get to it. This book I recently ran into a couple of days. I was searching and searching for a book that would catch my attention, especially horror, because I'm very picky with horror. I don't necessarily want to read super disturbing, triggering things, but I do want to get scared. So there's a balance there for me. And this one really intrigued me, okay? This one is called Black River Orchard by Chuck Wendig. If I could summarize the synopsis, which I'll read it to you because it was so good. This book is literally about evil apples. It's a horror about evil apples and evil orchard, okay? And yes, hear me out, hear me out. The synopsis of this book got me so intrigued, okay? So interesting to me. It says, a small town is transformed when 7 strange trees begin bearing magical apples in this new masterpiece of horror. It's autumn in the town of Harrow, but something besides the season is changing there, because in that town there is an orchard, and in that orchard 7 most unusual trees, and from those trees grows a new sort of apple, strange, beautiful, with skin so red it's nearly black. Take a bite of one of these apples and you will desire only to devour another and another. You will become stronger, more vital, more yourself, and you will believe. But then your appetite for the apples and their peculiar gifts will keep growing and become darker. This is what happens when the townsfolk discover the secret of the orchard. Soon it seems that everyone is consumed by an obsession with the magic of the apples. And what's the harm if it is making them all happier, more confident, more powerful? Even if something else is buried in the orchard besides the seeds of these extraordinary trees, a bloody history whose roots reach from the very origins of the town. But now the leaves are falling, the days grow darker, it's harvest time, and the town will soon reap what it's sown. I mean, that's so interesting, and it's so different because honestly, there's so many already done it horrors, like so many spooky houses. Just the same thing, right? And I feel like if I'm gonna read horror, I want to read something different. And because this book is so long, literally this is so crazy. This book is 613 pages, okay? And also, it has a table of contents. You see that? It has a table of contents. I don't care. I have a feeling like this book is one of those books where it's like a subtle horror that doesn't just hit you in the face right away, and it's beautifully written. And to me, those are the kind of horrors that I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading different things like that. Not just your typical haunted house, not just your typical demon or your paranormal entities. This is the kind of horror that interests me the most. I just love. You see this cover? This creepy cover? I love this, and I love that it's shiny. I love that it's shiny. I really want to read this book so badly because I'm intrigued. Why are the apples so evil? And the reviews on this were so great. This one person said, who knew that a bunch of evil apples was going to be so worth the 613 pages that it is? This book was so good. Like, I have to know what the hype is about. I have to read this. Okay, the next book on my list is my first Stephen King book, and I just really was walking one day at Costco. I saw this book and I wanted a Stephen King book, and I loved how floppy it is, so I got it. The funny thing is that I like the original cover better, so I bought another one, and that is Stephen King's Salem's Lot. I don't know what this book is about. I think this book is about vampires. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about vampires. Ben Mars has returned to Salem's Lot. So when it says has returned, does that mean that this is like the second book in a series? If it does, that's not good. That means I might not be able to read it yet. Nope, it doesn't say that. I don't know if this is the original cover, but I like this cover better than the Netflix series cover, so I bought it. You know, don't judge me. Ben Mears has returned in hopes that exploring the history of Marston House, an old mansion long the subject of rumor and speculation, will help him cast out these personal devils and provide inspiration for his new book. It's about an author. That's interesting. But when 2 young boys venture into the woods and only one returns alive, Mears begins to realize that something sinister is at work. In fact, his hometown is under siege from the forces of darkness, and only he, with a small group of allies, can hope to contain the evil that is growing within the borders of this small New England town. That sounds very interesting. I heard this is a slow burn though, and with horror, I don't know, I might like it. I might like slow burn horrors. Again, I'm not one of those people that I want in-your-face horror unless I'm expected to read that, like a slasher horror or something like that. I don't know, I'm excited. This next book is very interesting because it's about a domestic couple, and that is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. Look at this. I love any book that has to do with a secluded cabin, a secluded area out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And what I know about this book is that it's about a woman who is in a domestic marriage. On top of dealing with her violent husband, she also has to deal with something that is lurking outside of their property. And so that is creepy, okay? The next one is Dead Lake by Darcy Coates. I think this one is about a girl who is an artist. She's excited to be going to her uncle's remote lakeside cabin so she can focus on her art. There's a stalker outside stalking her, which To me, that is your classic horror for me. I love stalker horror. Like, I love being secluded in the middle of nowhere and somebody's out there to stalk you. That is so frightening. Also, it's super short. The words are fairly big, and so I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. I really don't know how to describe this book. I talked about this book in one of my other videos and I have no idea how to describe it. This one, I think it's a Japanese horror novel. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? It's a Japanese horror novel. Now You're One of Us by Asanonami. I really have no idea what this is about. I am intrigued nonetheless. Blood is Thicker Than Tears, a new classic about the bride who's no longer sure what to think. All families have their own rituals and secrets, like a miniature religious cult. These quirks may elicit the mirth or mild alarm of guests, but the matter is rather more serious if you're marrying into a household. If it's a Japanese one with a history, then brace yourself. Some surprising truths lurk around the corner. What I understand about this book is that this book is about this woman who is recently married and she is being introduced to her husband's family. I think she ends up moving in with them, but they're just weird. It's 8 of them and there's something off about this family. One day she's outside doing something and the neighbor comes over to kind of warn her about this family. One of the family members, I think the mother or the grandma, comes out and basically looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, nothing, nothing. I was just talking to her about possibly not being able to pay the rent this month because I think they own this entire building complex." And then something potentially happens to the neighbor. I don't know. Books like this always remind me of that movie Ready or Not, I think it's called, where the wife is getting married and they play this sick game with her and they try to kill her. It's not the same concept, but it kind of gives me the same feelings. The family is disturbing, something's off about them, strange events are occurring. I'm very intrigued. I can't wait to read it. The next book I want to talk about is Nectophobia by Christopher Fowler. Look at this creepy cover, you guys. Isn't this perfect for October? I didn't say this before in the beginning of the video, but I'm sorry that my voice sounds like this. I am sick. Everybody in the household is sick. We all have the cold and the flu, but you know what? I'm not gonna not make this video for you guys or wait for whenever I'm not sick anymore. So here I am. What I know about this is that it's about this couple who recently got married and they move into this beautiful house. However, this house is weird because one side of the house is light and the other side of the house is super dark. The main character is afraid of the dark. That's all I know about this book. Strange things happen, and as the days go by, I think in the book, I think it states that the light begins to dim and the dark comes closer and closer and caves in into the house. I don't know, something like that. Sounds super interesting and I am very intrigued. The next book on my list is No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Naval, and this one I think is about a girl who doesn't really have a lot of money. She ends up being able to pay rent at this big house that has a lot of rooms. She's basically paying for a room there or something like that. Strange things happen. There are paranormal entities here. She hears things crawling up walls. So I believe it's about a haunted house or some evil spirits, something like that. That's all I know about it. Can't wait to read it because I've heard that Adam Naval writes some very creepy stuff. And the last book on my list is Mary by Nat Cassidy. I have been wanting to read this book for so long, but I haven't been in the right mood or it hasn't been the right time for me to read it. This one I believe is about a woman who is going through menopause, but the way that she's going through menopause is when she looks in the mirror every day, she sees her skin drooping and decaying, her teeth falling out, things like that, okay? Disturbing, descriptive, things like that. And I heard this book is beautifully written. Again, I'm one of those suckers, like if the book is slow, but it's well written and it's lyrical and the words are just so beautiful and descriptive, I am going to pick it up and I'm going to read it. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my Spooky October TBR video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!